I'm sorry, I'm on mute. Good evening. This is Geeta Mallikarjunan, CEO of HMA, and on behalf of Hyderabad Management Association, I welcome you to the MSME program on the topic, Building Sustainable Global Competitiveness through Operations and Quality Management Practices by Mr. Gadi Raju, Murali Krishna Raju, ex-corporate senior management, advocate, law advisory, and independent director registered with IICA. I also welcome our office bearers, MC members, and all the members who have registered for this program and also watching us live on Facebook. I welcome our convener, MSME, Mr. Peddi Rajendra Krishna Prasad. I also welcome our speaker, Mr. Gadi Raju Murali Krishna Raju, our MC member and past secretary 2019-2020, Professor Mahesh Kumar Soma, and request him to take the session forward.
Thank you, Ms. Geeta. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very warm and great pleasure to invite each one of you to this interesting training session or a webinar on very excellent topic, building sustainable global competitiveness through operations and quality management practices by a very seasoned and accomplished individual, Mr. Gadi Raju Murali Krishna Raju garu. Hyderabad Management Association is affiliated to All India Management Association and is one of the oldest management bodies with a standing of over 50 years. And it conducts a plethora of activities to address the needs of the management fraternity, like training programs, webinars, seminars, conferences, faculty development programs for the management faculty, and student development programs, and many conventions and conferences. We have a very distinguished panel of past presidents who constitute a backbone of our Hyderabad Management Association. The vision of Hyderabad Management Association is achieving progress and enriching society through professional development. This year, for the year 2022-23, we have got a very inspiring theme, which is given by our Honorable President Ramachandra Garu. Innovate for inclusive and sustainable growth. With this brief introduction of HMA, I once again extend a very warm welcome to each one of you and a special welcome to our speaker of the day, Mr. Gadi Raju Murali Krishna Raju. Over to Mr. Rajendra Garu to introduce the speaker of the day.
Yeah. Thank you, Soma Garu. Thank you. It's indeed my pleasure and honor to introduce today's topic as well as the speaker of the day. Yeah, you all know that the MSME sector is playing a vital role in the Indian economy in terms of size and employment and exports. Today, it is indeed a cusp of change in global business environment. The sector is presented with great opportunities to be harvested, for which it needs to build a sustainable global competitiveness. Operations and production and quality-led excellence is vital, and every MSME player who wishes to ride this tide must embark on a change of journey. This presentation covers the contours of a prospect of a plot, like delivery, quality, cost, innovation, and morale are the milestone for the journey. MSMEs must constantly surpass the standards and set new benchmark on them fronts. On timely delivery for complex supply chains and production systems needs the backbone of a strong ERP, that is Entrepreneur Resource Planning, IT system tailored to the needs to be of the company. Having featured of master production scheduling, material resource planning, capacity and resource scheduling, it should be integrated into your costing and financial system and have a balanced scorecard dashboard. It must provide interlinkages to your supply chain partners. Conformances to the quality standards and the continuously improving to rising the customer expectation requires a culture of quality and strong systems. Quality here addresses product and service quality. Globally, industries have evolved many programs and systems and best practices like TQM, Six Sigma, Lean, TPM, and many variants of these. The ISO organization has also evolved the ISO 9000 series of standards of organization to adopt as a starting point for their journey towards world-class manufacturing. The best practices in the program could be woven into the ISO quality system as MSME work to improve year on year. Cost is impacted by waste, and poor quality is also waste. Likewise, long lead times which affect delivery are also waste. The ERP system and quality system help again align the organization towards a continuously improving delivery, quality, cost, and strive to remain ahead of competition. Employees and technology are the vital inputs. Technology must be carefully selected and leveraged. It could include adoption of elements of factory, floor, and sector-specific equipment. Employees are the foundation. Employees' involvement and participation must be focused on. Their session must be captured and effectively applied. Training and morale are vital to the effect of working in the technology progress and systems and innovation. In this presentation, he'll be sharing more successes of ladders to climb to see the fruits of the change. These are all the best practices points from various programs mentioned earlier and is recommended as a starting base plan. Sector-specific inputs may be added as a layers of the same. In conclusion, it must become in mindset that for success, we should have both passion and system. Also, competitiveness upgrading is a marathon, not a sprint. Please be there for long run, long haul, and you will be recognized as world class. This is the brief synopsis given by the speaker as such. Since I'm reading out about the topic content, what exactly is going to cover in this particular presentation. He is going to touch more on various varieties of operation management, supply chain techniques, ERP, quality management system, and how to build a team and what is the motivation of the employee and culture of the company towards the competitiveness of a particular product and service of the company. Now, as a convener of the HMA MSME, it's my honor to introduce the speaker, because no doubt all the people know the speaker because he's already given about 2 presentations to us. But it is my formality and my privilege to introduce you all again. Yeah, GMK Raju Garu is BTech Mechanical Engineering from IIT Madras and undergone executive development at Carnegie Mellon University. He holds a certificate as Master of Investment and Finance Analysis and Chartered Financial Analyst from ICFI. He has also done LLB from KSMU and Master of Business Laws from National Law School, India University, Bangalore. Mr. GMK Raju Garu has been in industry as ITC Limited for over 32 years. During this period, he has held a senior management position, including CEO for Strategic Business Unit at Chennai. The roles taken up included being Vice President, Factory Manager, Operation Head, Engineering and Project Manager. Areas of involvement includes manufacturing, management information system ERP, HR and IR, marketing and sales. He has led several initiatives including ISO 9000 and ISO 14000, International Quality Rating System IQRS, export, customer certification, Juran quality programs, ERP implementation, and employee long-term agreement. He has led an MRP2 system implementation and later been associated with the migration to a SAP ERP system in the units of a business. 2 units received ISO 9002 certification and ISO 14000 certification during his tenure. He qualified as a lead assessor and participated in audits of 2 other companies. He has been associated with the TQM, BPR, Six Sigma implementation and seeing that some of the essential ingredients are assimilated through work culture change through employee agreement. After the corporate career, He was a freelance consultant in the areas of business management, intellectual property, and technology transfer. As a senior advisor at IIT Madras Center for Industrial Consultancy and Sponsored Research, has set up an intellectual property cell and envisaged the importance of the intellectual property with all researchers. The support extended. As a senior advisor at IIT Madras Center of Industrial Consultancy and Sponsored Research, he set up an intellectual property cell and raised the importance of intellectual property with all researchers. The support extended to the commercialization of intellectual property and guiding researchers who wanted to take the research into startups. As part of legal advisory practice, he has advised over 20 startups in various business and legal aspects, including investment, advisor appointment, employee issues, customer agreement, session issues, IPR, dispute resolution. Now he has taken up an advocacy and is an advocate with the Telangana Bar. He advises on corporate law, insolvency law, and other business law. He is also a resolution professional, registered with Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, and the independent director that is registered with the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. It's indeed a great bio, sir. It's my pleasure again to invite you to take up the session in operation management and quality management system to reach that global competence. Welcome you, sir. Thank you. Now the mic is yours, sir.
Thank you, Professor Soma. Thank you, Prasad Garu, for that long introduction of mine. Thank you, Geeta ma'am, and thank you, HMA, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this subject. As it's been mentioned by Prasad Garu, I have actually moved to advocacy, but operations and quality have remained my passion still. So I still keep in touch with the subject, so I cannot practice it now because I moved into advocacy field. So with that brief thing, let me start off the subject matter because this is a long subject. So I intend to take you through a whirlwind tour of the matter, and maybe we can take up some questions at the end. And if there are any specific areas that you would like me to dive into, we could do it today if it's possible. Otherwise, maybe we could take it up later on a one-to-one basis. So with that, let me launch up. I'll just share my presentation. President, am I clear and audible?
Yeah, yes, sir. Very well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. After a lot of thought, I selected this topic, building sustainable global competitiveness. This comes out of my own experience. I'll want to just dwell on each of the words. The reason why I use building is because quality and operations excellence does not come by putting on a switch. Okay, it has to be built brick by brick over a period of time by leveraging everything that's around you. The second word that I've used is sustainable. The reason I've used sustainable is because this competitiveness should not be transitory. It's something that builds up over time and goes on and on. And third, in the context of MSME, I use deliberately the word global. I think we should all start looking at what is global competitiveness because it is here. Okay, it's not something that is very far away. Okay, I've used the word operations and quality excellence. So of course, quality and operations are more or less synonymous because they are a part of each other. But operations here has been used in the context of a wider context. It's not only products that we manufacture, even service delivery processes would come within the purview of this. So with that introduction, I'll just start off. Okay, I just happened to look through this competitiveness roadmap for the 100th year of our independence. This has been commissioned by the government of India and was done by Michael Porter. Okay, it's a long report, but the essence of it talks about competitive governments, competitive firms, and competitive jobs. It talks about productivity, new and unique ways of creating value. India should become a platform to serve global demand, and MSMEs must not shy away from scaling up.
Sir,
Okay.
you're sharing the screen, sir?
Yeah.
No, it's not coming, sir. I think you're not sharing.
One sec, just one sec. Is it coming on?
Yeah, it's opening now. Yeah, now it's opening. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, the first slide was only the.
Okay.
One second, is it going slow or something? Okay. Okay. You're able to see now?
Yeah, yes, sir. But not
Okay.
full screen. Okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, I was able to see.
No, if you want full screen, I can change it to full screen. Okay. You're able to see the full screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Essentially from the report, the main points are that we should focus on productivity, new and unique ways of creating value for customers. We should, India should become a platform to serve global demand, and MSME specifically should not shy from scaling up. Okay. And another important point they talk about is competitive jobs. That means industry should create not only mundane jobs, but jobs which are enriching for employees. I've changed the second sheet screen. Can you see? Hello?
Yes, we are able to see, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, MSC sector, I think Prasad Garu has already mentioned, is vital both in terms of GDP and exports. Percentages are there. But the characteristics of the MSME sector is that today only 32% is in manufacturing. So that needs to go up. That's what the government wants. And I think for the long-term success is important. Second, if you see the distribution between medium, small, and micro, almost 95% is still stuck in the micro segment. So those will need to move up into small and medium. So why I'm sharing these figures is they are contextual to the subject matter that we are going to discuss today.
Okay.
Okay. If you see in terms of expectation, we are talking about Make in India. That means greater focus on manufacturing. Okay, engaging with global companies, investing in India. MSMEs would find themselves as suppliers to global companies which come into India. We don't want them to bring their items from abroad and just assemble it here. Our industry must rise up and cater to that. We must. There's a need for linking up with sophisticated global supply chains, and also we need to compete with other companies which may come into India as FDI, that is foreign direct investment. So what it will require, I put down in terms of 4 simple things which we will touch upon. One is world-class manufacturing in operations management, world-class quality management systems. The other 2 I want to briefly only go through them: R&D and new knowledge, and intellectual property, and compliance to international standards like ESG, which is environment, societal, and governance standards. Okay, I've put together a simplified diagram of a supply chain. I won't elaborate here, but when we get into sophisticated supply chain, the issues that will come up is you'll have to cross borders. Okay, so a lot of issues of monitoring and planning, inventory management, warehousing, transport management, sourcing, collaboration, transparency will come up, which will require that any MSME, suppose if he is a supplier tier 1. Okay, I'm just taking it as an example. He could be the manufacturer, he could be a distributor, he could be a retailer. But suppose if you're a supplier tier 1, then he has to link in with the rest of the supply chain. Okay, so now let's focus on one specific entity within the supply chain. So it will always have inputs and outputs. So the production and operations part will be having these elements which I put in the center. Okay, there'll be a new product development system, forecasting of demand, capacity management, materials planning, quality management, and all that. Finally, it must result in productivity, costs, and profits. So whatever we do in operations and whatever we do in quality must finally give us productivity, costs, and profits, because then only we know it's working. Okay, I'll have to go through these concepts a little fast because it's a long presentation, but I'll quickly summarize. So the first one is new product development. Okay, there's R&D on one side and intellectual property on the other side. Okay, so what we're looking at is that you'll continuously be having product changes, process changes, because that becomes a way of life today, because things are constantly changing. Okay, and customer expectations are also changing. So you may have breakthrough requirements at one end, or you may have minor changes and derivative enhancements and hybrids on the other end. So let's take an example here. When we talk of breakthrough, suppose you're going to EV vehicles, it's a breakthrough. Okay, if you're moving from, say, a small car to a big car, so that's somewhere in between when we call platform changes. Derivative is you just change the model colors or some small changes. Ultimately, all new product development has to go through a funnel. So at one end, you will get a lot of ideas that are coming in. We must capture them as much as and have a systematic way of looking at and sorting them out through a screening process, which then finally comes up with some concepts that we may want to pursue. Then, of course, there has to be project management, because some of these shortlisted items will have to run through a project management cycle, which also should be efficient, but we are not covering it here today, which finally results in new products, processes, services, or even business models. Okay, and then we must have a robust intellectual property system to protect this, because otherwise we are not leveraging whatever we are doing. Okay, so that's a new product. Next one, of course, is the delivery system, which basically is the capacity planning. I've just given a small model here. What are the normal steps? So on the top, you have the external supply chain. You may be hooked on to an external supply chain, or you may be the manufacturer yourself. So you need to correctly forecast your demand, look at your business requirements, financial requirements, your new product development or product life management plans. Okay, so that creates a demand side. On the other side, you have capacity in terms of facilities, equipment, the amount of manpower that you have at that point in time, how much cash can you deploy. So you go from long range planning at one end to master production scheduling, MRP and detailed scheduling, and then of course dispatching. Okay, so taking one by one, demand segmentation and forecasting is an important thing. So here is a conceptual model that has been suggested. Okay, we have tried to use it also in my own practice, is that you sort out your items into say 4 groups, because on 2 dimensions. One is on the volatility, because sometimes some demands are more steady, some demands tend to yo-yo a lot because of various seasonal elements or maybe some random variations. The other one is the items that you have, some of them may be of very high value, and some may be like bolts and nuts, which may be of hardly of any value, very low value. So accordingly, you must have a strategy, okay, which I summarize in the next page. So I'm saying if it's high value items and high volatility and demand, then the most important thing is to get into an agreement with your customer, so that you're synced with him, so that tomorrow he should not say that why did you produce this and this is not what I wanted. Okay, so there should be good schedules which are agreed with them, and close communication should be there. And of course, you also need to have survey methods to get a better understanding of their requirements. If it's a high value item, but if the volatility is low, then you look at, statistical methods. Of course, if it's a very low value item, then you'll work on very simple things like reorder points, or even you may look at bulk purchases in some cases to save on costs or get consistency. Okay, so that's on demand segmentation and forecasting. So this becomes an input to your master production schedule. Okay, if you have an ERP system, which I'll mention a little later. So from the long range plan that you have, you will come up with what are the capacity constraints, production policies, and financial consideration that have to be kept, which is on one side, from the top side. From the bottom, you have a planning horizon within which you want to plan. But the planning horizon can vary depending upon the industry that you are in. Say automotive will have one type of a planning horizon, okay, or maybe a small, say a packaging unit will have a different planning horizon. So again, then calendar, shift time, all that you take in. And then on the left hand side, you see the orders. Okay, from the previous chart that we talked about, how the planned orders and forecast demand, inventory, WIP, and subcontracted items come in. And then you get into a schedule. Okay, so this schedule is basically, so MPS is normally looked at by senior and middle management. Okay, so you get a broad level understanding of what needs to be done when. Then you dive into the next stage, which is after you do your MRP and you know what is to be done, you get into the shop floor scheduling. Here is a lot of the concepts of Kanban and just in time. I won't get into this because that's a subject. But at the shop floor level, one would expect a lot of involvement of frontline workmen and supervisory staff, and also the middle management. In fact, I have had personal experiences where we used to have weekly planning meetings, and we would invite actually some of the key operatives also to sit in those meetings, so that they could tell us also if some things that we have missed out. So through these interactions, you try and ensure on-time delivery. And also another important thing is that if you need 100 units to be finally delivered to the customer, you don't produce 120 because you're expecting that you're uncertain of how many you will finally get as good product. Okay, so the whole thing is that how do you narrow down the over and shortfalls. So okay, I've run through a lot of it, which is, it's a very detailed subject and requires a lot of involvement. But okay, just to give you an overview. So next point is, of course, very important for any system, any operation system, is to have to measure performance. Okay, and one very good way to do it is costing and variances, because that translates everything into the language of money. Because language of money is always the best thing. Of course, you can have a tonnage per hour, tonnage per month, and things like that. But ultimately, you must also look at the money value. So here, what I have tried to show is that you have a material master. That is basically the prices of various materials that you purchase. Then you have a bill of material, which is how many of items that you need to use. And then, of course, you have a work center rate table. That means for every work center, how much costs are involved. Now here, I think you must be knowing about this price and volume relationship. So you have a variable cost component, fixed cost component. How do you bring that loading into your work center table? And then how do you carry it into your routing master, so that you have both a good estimate of what is the standard cost for the product. Then you end up with actual costs, and the difference between the two gives you variances, which can be price variances. That means whether you bought the item more expensively or less expensively. Efficiency variance, as your equipment run better, faster or slower. Usage is how much your losses you have had. So all this must get aligned to your supply chain management. And if you're in a complex supply chain, which is international, then all this data will have to be made visible. Okay, people will, your customers will want to know a lot more about all this information. And also, when you're doing a lot of this improvement in wastes and the improvement in costs, all this data is very useful. Okay, so all this finally gets integrated to an ERP system. If you see the image on the top right corner, I've actually borrowed this from the net. In a very simple way, it says, what is your ERP system doing? Is if you have a tab or a laptop, it is trying to bring you an image of what's happening all around your company in an integrated fashion. Okay, so that you know what to act on, and in time and in real time, of course. So a typical ERP system would have all these components that you're seeing in the box in between. Of course, depending upon the amount of money that you have and what are your priorities, you may decide to choose some of them, and others you manage through your own other solutions which are plugged in together. So the ones in red are the most essential in my own experience. Many times people just go for production planning without linking it to finance. But I would personally feel that it should have a very strong link. So that's very important. Of course, there are a lot of other things. And today, with a lot of things changing and so many new technologies coming, which I will also share a little later, a lot more of other requirements are coming up, which may come as customer CRM models, or okay, they may be wanting integration of the SCM. That is, your data is available to your other members in the supply chain. Okay, so all that. So I would, and we're saying that it's integrated is ideal, but it's expensive. But you can also have plug-in modules, but you have to make sure that the people who supply those things do it well. And always remember there's an upward and downward linkage to others. So that also has to be borne in mind. And another thing
what is the treasury, sir? Treasury something.
Treasury is basically, in finance, they have to plan funding and all, so the banks and other things. So borrowing and other things also have to be cash flow management. So the company have to be managed. So that's what the treasury department does.
Okay, fine.
Is my knowledge. Okay. Okay. So implementation maturity is important, because a lot of people think I just bought an ERP system, I plugged it in, it should work. It does not. Because my own knowledge is that just like you improve quality, you have to improve the quality of your ERP system in terms of the data that is going in, the data that is residing in, and how the data is used. Okay, so with that, okay, so I have I've gone rapidly through the operations part of it, just to give you an overview and how it is connected to the ERP system. Now I'd like to go into the second part of the presentation, which will focus more on quality. Here again, I must say, here when we use the word quality here does not mean only the quality of the product. Within its scope are things like waste, non-conforming products, and a lot of other things. So when you're looking at a quality system, on the left I put down what do you want. You're looking for on-time delivery. The quantity ordered must be as close as possible to the actual quantity. So if you're short supplied, you don't want to end up running the whole process once again. Or if you're over manufactured, you don't want to throw off some items because the customer is not willing to take them. Okay, quality being defect free, and of course competitive cost is some way all the other things add up to that, ultimately resulting in customer delight. Okay, on the right hand side, okay, this has been my experience. You do a lot of work as an operations person, you think, oh, now my customer is going to be delighted, okay, with the quality that he's getting today. But then you'll find that in 3 or 6 months time, they come up with more stiffer standards and more higher expectations. So it's something that keeps moving up. Okay, so unless your system is geared to continuously improve, you'll find yourself struggling to support the requirements. Okay, okay. Here actually from my own collection of various data from all, I just put down the evolutions of systems that have taken place. Okay, and so if you see, I put on the left side technology, tools, systems, and business. So in terms of systems, you have TQM, Six Sigma, Lean. Now that there's also Six Sigma, Lean. Okay, these are all basic. There is some Toyota manufacturing system and all, but they are all actually somewhere in the thing. They're somewhere summarized in these three main ones: TQM, Six Sigma, and Lean. Okay, what ISO has done is tried to bring some of these things into a documented standard, which can help industries to adopt these practices. Okay, and then on the business side also, there is business process re-engineering. We had also experimented with this in ITC in terms of streamlining the businesses. World-class manufacturing, which is again another term used for TQM, Six Sigma, or Lean, and a lot of business models, business. And nowadays we hear a lot about technology, Industry 4.0. The people are now talking about Industry 5.0. Okay, these are all other technologies that are developing around manufacturing, which are also going to have a strong bearing on how these implementations take place. But the important point that I would like you to, which I will again touch at the end, please do not have a toolbox approach. See, a lot of people will say, okay, we have launched Six Sigma, and they start tom-tomming over Six Sigma, and everybody starts talking only of Six Sigma, forgetting that finally the business is what is important. Okay, so Six Sigma must be derived from the needs for business. That's what I just want to keep in mind. Okay.
What is WCM, sir? WCM.
It's a short form for world-class manufacturing. It actually came in as a term later to basically encompass all that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is having a good ERP system, good quality system, good maintenance system, everything put together. So the best of everything that you put together.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want to, I brought this slide up. All of you, many of you may be knowing Industry 4.0. It has also had a lot of role to play in building competitiveness, and even how the ERPs that you select today are affected by cloud computing. It's made it more simpler to have an ERP system for anybody. So MSMEs can leverage that. Okay, big data analytics that people are talking about, a lot more of customer data is available. Okay, to simplify and then work your schedules. RFID also, you would have heard how traceability is improved in certain industries because of using RFID. Okay, so the reason why I brought up this, we must look at an ERP and an operations management system. We must look at how it's happening on all these surrounding technologies and see how they can be assimilated into your system. And of course, next one is quality. Okay, quality, in my thing, there are three broad things. See, earlier quality, when very early in my days in industry, we used to talk about number of defect, percentage defect, confidence level, going sampling and things like that. But over periods of time, we started realizing that just putting the pressure on that operator on the machine to improve quality is not going to work. Many a time the materials that is coming from suppliers may be having a lot of variation. Okay, so it's important. That's why TQM said you must have a system-wide look at things. So you must have looking at vendors in terms of their relationship, development of vendors on one side, understanding customers very well. Because many times you find customers, and I've seen this in my own company experience, that they will sit on, marketing people will sit on the subject till the last moment. Then 2 days before, they will say, look, this is what we need in the next 1 day. It has to be delivered. Okay, it's very important. If you don't deliver, the customer will go somewhere else. So, but can you imagine the type of pressure that comes into the system? Because, this also contributes to poor quality. So there has to be customer focus and understanding customers' need better, so that the system is more streamlined. Of course, then the top management commitment, teamwork, systems, and SPC tools I will be covering a little later in the discussion. But TQM, important point is this emanated basically from the Japanese automotive companies when they were competing with US companies. So they understood that it has to be a system-wide change that is required. So that's all about TQM in a nutshell. So to support any quality movement, you must have a good quality management system. Okay, which means that it must be documented. We cannot say that it's in people's minds. Okay, or you cannot say that it is all experientially transferred. For a good system, it must get translated into a documented system from, say, starting from quality policy at the top so that everybody in the system understands it, right down to maintaining very good records so that you can pull them out and use those records to do continuous improvement, and also sometimes defend yourself when there are issues. Okay, the whole ISO 9000 system has tried to do this. So if you see, these are all the elements that 9000 talks about. And if you look at it from item number 1, management, which is top management involvement, going to item number 20, which is statistical techniques, that is the system expects that you must show proof that how you are using effectively statistical tools to improve quality and reduce waste. Okay, so that's the ISO system. So what ISO has done is basically standardize a process which can be used by any MSME. Doesn't need to now again relearn what is a Toyota management system, what is a TQM. They can take the ISO 9000 system and try and implement it, and from that start improving. Okay, so next point that I wanted to make is, many a time I keep hearing, we have got ISO 9000 certificate as though we have arrived. Okay, ISO 9000 is not the arrival. ISO 9000 is the starting. Okay, so through the processes of audit, continuous improvement and all, we have to continuously keep on improving, because you have to remember that everywhere around the world, people are using the same concepts and tools to improve themselves. So it's all a question of who's going to improve better and faster. Okay, so this was a tool that basically offered by DNV. So they also tell you how much is your maturity of your quality system, how your ISO and system. Okay, so that's TQM. So I'll just, there are two other streams of movements. One is the Six Sigma movement, the other one is the Lean movement. Their genesis, where they started, is slightly different. But at the end of the day, they are all also encapsulating all the tools. So Six Sigma, basically, if you see, it came in from the technology industries. So where did it start? Started in Motorola, and then it was popularized by GE. And you know that Motorola and GE are very high-tech companies, okay, where defects need to be very, very low. So that's how they started the Six Sigma movement. And of course, they made a system-wide thing. So what Six Sigma means that instead of having a variability of 3 Sigma, you're trying to get 6 Sigma, because basically you're trying to bring your defects down, say from around 60,000 per million opportunities to barely 3.4 million defects. So this is very important, basically, because if you have a airline turbine running an aircraft flying, you don't want to have nobody would like to have 60,000 defects per million opportunities, because the chance of the plane crashing is very high. Okay, so that's how the Six Sigma movement came, and then slowly caught on. So it's a rigorous and focused and highly effective implemented proven thing. Okay, it can be applied, of course, while it can be applied for technology items, but it can be now people are using this for even other areas. Okay, essentially they talk about two methodologies that they have. Of course, there's a lot to Six Sigma. So basically, you're trying to drive cost of poor quality. So if it's an existing process, you go through defining, measuring, analyzing, improving, and control. If it is a new process that you're trying to develop, or a new service that you're bringing, you try to define, measure, analyze, design it, and verify it. Sorry, analyze, design, and verify it. Okay, this is basically a methodology. The reason in all these quality systems is it says that you must try and work systematically. You must look at a lot of data, okay, and you must use a lot of analytical tools. Okay, and in the moment, and they use some standard methodologies, because then what happens, it becomes easy to communicate in the whole system, and everybody then follows a system, and that helps in improvement and holding on to improvement. Okay, next one is Lean. So Lean, again, it was started actually in Toyota, but it was popularized by Womack and Jones when they wrote the book Lean Thinking. And then suddenly a lot of people started looking at Lean. Okay, the unfortunate thing is a lot of people started shedding Six Sigma and saying now we are Lean. Okay, and they forgot Toyota monomer. But the thing is that these are all basically different genesis of things, but ultimately they're all dealing with the same thing, and it's important to focus on it. So its basic focus here is on waste. We are trying to remove all the different types of waste. They talk about 8 types of waste which are listed there. So a simple example which I've shown from the line diagram here. So when I joined the company way back, they used to have a concept of departments. They'll have all one type of machines in one place, another type of machine in another hall, a third type of machine in the third hall, and material would move up and down so many times, like is shown in this before position. But what you're trying to do in lean is, one of the things that they do is they're trying to streamline it. They put it around like this, that way you reduce the amount of space that you require, reduce the amount of time the material has to keep moving around. Okay. And also the number of people that are required. So when you have it like this, you can have one person doing multitasking, which is a very important thing. Whereas in the left-hand side, you'll find that multitasking is not possible. So lean, again, if you see, actually uses the concept of what we call value stream mapping. So what it says is that, you look at your various customers, and I want to share some example from my own experience. So what we did is that, we look at the customer and we said, what are the different segments of customers that we have to deal with? Okay. And then within the customer segments, we try and see what type of needs are there. So, and what type of value, what is the value that you're looking for finally? Okay, from there, you identify, so if you see the circle here, identify customers and specify what the customer's value requirements are. Then you map the value, how it is produced in your system, what are the steps that it goes through. Okay, and then in each step, you try and collect data in terms of what is the time that the product has to wait, what is the type of process time that it has. Okay, how much time does it take to set up the process? How much yield losses are there actually. Okay, so all that. And then what you try and do is you try and create a flow and that's what we saw in the previous chart. So it's not going zigzag all over the place. You make a simple C type formation. So you know very clearly how the movement is taking place. Okay, and then you respond to the customer. So, and then you say the system will always work like a chain. If the system, the customer gives a tug, then the chain moves a step. This is, okay, so that's a JRT movement also. And then ultimately through a process of continuous PDCA cycle, you improve each step continuously. That's how these concepts of, you would have heard about SMED, single minute exchange of die. That was the concept that came from some of these work only, because they found that setup times could be drastically reduced. Similarly, now they talk about OMED, that is one touch change of die or something like that. So, okay, these are all improvements that have come from focusing on this. So here I have a small picture that I've taken courtesy ITC. So on the left, you see, whenever you do a new setup, you need to change a lot of parts on the machine. So on the left, you'll see all the items earlier, or each one of them would be taken, individually assembled. Then you keep struggling to reset them and get the tuning. On the right, you'll see what they've done is they've pre-assembled these sets at a little extra cost. Okay, it's all ready. So the moment you change from one to the other, the whole assembly is just loaded on the machine. So you avoid a lot of unnecessary waste of time, then waste of product because the machine takes time to tune. All those things are avoided. Okay, the third concept, which again, started from a different angle, and some people suddenly found that a lot of the defects are created because the machine starts wearing or machine starts heading towards breakdown. So you'll find many a time when a machine is heading towards breakdown, or when a machine has been freshly set up and it is going to start up, you have a lot of waste being generated. Okay, so the question was, how do you reduce this? Okay, and that's how this whole movement came. So like Lean or Six Sigma, TPM is also another big movement. And very basic thing here is that you make it earlier, if you all know, there used to have a maintenance section which is separate. Okay, and there are production guys who are different. Maintenance guys don't know what production guys do. Production guys don't know what maintenance guys do. They don't have skills. So the whole idea of TPM is to fuse these two. And this is what also we did an experiment. In fact, in one of our long-term agreements, we actually pushed this through, where we said that maintenance people will also be made to come in as operators on machine. Okay, they're not skilled up, they'll be actually assistants to the operator. Similarly, operators will be sent to maintenance for some time to actually maintain machines. And through this exercise, we found that you bring in this concept of early equipment management. That is, you start seeing when there's a drift taking place on the machine and you correct it. Okay, and then you improve planned maintenance. And autonomous maintenance is, of course, where you set up systems in the machine, so some corrections start taking place on their own. And through that, you bring in zero defects, zero waste, zero breakdowns. And of course, if you see focused improvement, quality management, education, I mean, again, are common platforms which run through all the other things that we're talking about. And then, of course, there are a whole lot of toolbox of various terms that you will hear. But you'll find these, whether you talk about Lean, Six Sigma, TQM, TPM, all of them, all these things come in somewhere or the other. Okay, and even if you're looking at ISO 9000, if you are asking for certifications, the auditors will definitely look for many of these tools actually being applied in your system. And they are not very complicated systems. If the Japanese employees on the floors could do it, I'm sure all of our guys are already doing it, and more of us can do it. Okay, so I've touched, so we have now covered two angles. One is the operations part, and the second one is the quality systems that are available in the around us. Okay, so now when we are talking about supply chain, in today's supply chain, people will expect a lot more from you if you are part of the system. One, of course, ISO 9000 applicable for industry. If you are implementing ISO 9000, the aspect of TQM, Lean, Six Sigma, TPM, all will get somewhere dovetailed into this. And of course, year on year, people will be expecting you to improve your systems. So you'll bring in the best practice in and apply them. Apart from that, if you see in the 4 quadrants, if you are, suppose, a foods company, then you'll have food specific standards that you must also be certified to. Okay, if you're pharma, then there is other certifications that are involved. On the right hand side, if you see today, increasingly there's an emphasis on environment. So you may look at ISO 14000 thing. Now, an MSME may ask me a question. Hare bhai, why do I need to go for a certification? Is it necessary? Okay, I will manage it. But the point is that if you're a part of a supply chain, then your customer, when he comes for your vendor audits, he will be expecting to see some trace of what you're doing. Similarly, safety today is important. Okay, in another segment, I put ethical practices, like things like child labor, or even how you're treating women in your thing. All that will be looked at. And of course, if you're in the supply chain, as I've already mentioned a little earlier, your ERP system maturity will also be looked at, because when they come, we will want to know how your security protocols are, how is data managed. So all that is important, because I was reading the other day of a case of a hotel which got actually sued by somebody because some data of our clients slipped out. Okay, in India, still we are shielded to some extent, but all this will now start becoming increasingly a part of our daily life. And that's why it's important to have these certifications. Okay, just a world-class factor. This, of course, taken from the net. And I couldn't get it from my own company because they didn't want to disclose everything out. But some of the ITC's factories look like this. I mean, in terms of floor painting, the way they are organized around. Okay, so with that, I've given you an overview of the things. Now I'll just get into a more like an action agenda of what you should do for world-class things. Some steps. They're basically 12 steps, and as I go through the 12 steps, I'll just show you what are the things that we need to focus on, what type of expectations people will have if you are a world-class manufacturer. Okay, so basically issues of alignment. Alignment here means alignment of all the employees, managers, senior management. How do you align them towards the organization's goal? Performance is the actual deliverables. I mean, do you get profits? Do you have rejects? Do you have returns? Okay, and of course, practices is, as we discussed a little earlier, there are so many different practices that are available. You have to decide what you want to use and what is most effective for you, and then take it forward. But these steps will definitely be important to keep in mind. The first one, of course, you must ensure there's alignment of objectives. Okay, so some of the measurable objectives and agreed annually in every department. Going down, 100% of objectives are achieved or exceeded by year end. Okay, these are all benchmarks for world-class manufacturing. Okay, I have my personal experience. You have a company policy, you make sure that it's disseminated and understood by every employee. Because in ISO 9000, when they do a sample check to see if that policy is understood. Okay, so and employee goals must be aligned with the overall mission of the organization. Okay, I just put down what is smart and all those are not important. Okay. The Japanese had a very meticulous system of deployment. They used to call it Hoshi. I think Hoshi Kanri is the Japanese word for it. So how do you translate from a customer's needs all the way to the final deliverables? So for customers, you get to customer knowledge, to customer needs and expectation, a good understanding of it. Okay, then in the organization, you translate it to a vision and then deploy it down the organization to goals and objectives of the last person in the system. Okay, then you have performance drivers, both in practices, processes, practices, structural factors. And then finally, it must get translated and worked effectively through the organization to get the desired outcomes, which must then result in customer satisfaction. So this is how an organized systematic way is necessary in any organization if you want quality and to be world class. Okay, so the next step, of course, is customer focus. So world class benchmarks here, there should be regular surveys and focus groups which keep in touch with the customers. Okay, so you must be in touch with the customer to understand what they need. Okay, and then of course going all the way down to on time and in full delivery. Okay, of course there's a concept of house of quality, what we call quality function deployment, because many a time it's also important that customers' language is well understood by the organization. Because as we all know, factory language is different from customer language. See, a customer language may say, look, the car must look very sleek and smooth and must have good curves. Okay, so that's what the customer expectation. But how do you translate it to what a guy in, say, a dye shop has to do? Okay, and what a thing. So the whole purpose of this is to translate it so that the person who's going to finally execute must have a good understanding and answer. So this is a QFD is itself a technique in itself. It requires maybe a full 1 day to 2 days workshop for people to understand it and apply it. Okay, the next third one, of course, people expect that we must have a well-organized workplace. Okay, this again I borrowed courtesy from the web to show the difference when you apply 5S and before and after YS. But in terms of world-class benchmarks, with the workplace, it must be habitually clean and well-organized. Not when the day the senior management comes or when a customer visit is there. It must be a regular habit. And teams must earn top scores even during surprise inspections. So you must have a 5S audit system which is there, and somebody when he audits it on a surprise visit also, he must give you a high score. Okay, another thing that here I have again borrowed a chart from ITC courtesy. So left it shows, how a disorganized things set up. In a 5S system, you try and organize it like you see on the right hand side, so that readily you can visually know what is there. Things are clean, things are orderly maintained, so you save on a lot of things. Okay, the next point is a visual measurement system. In a world-class factory or any factory, if you want TQM or good thing, there must be a lot of charts and everything which are available there, not only for display, but for the workmen to understand. So when they're walking by, or you even have stand-up meetings where this data is made available. I know there's a whole range of charts that you may put up. So world-class standard, there must be measures which are appropriate, accurate, and objective, and they're available for everyone. And whether even if senior management or visitor, they can tell from there how the thing is happening. So you don't need to go ask. Of course, you must go around and look around and see and talk to people. But even by looking at a chart, you must know how things are moving and how things are performing. Okay, next one is, of course, managing for quality. Okay, now a lot of companies today tend to say, okay, you look at only a process is going out of control when a defect is produced, not when you start seeing a drift in some parameters. Okay, so world-class factories, so it says the abnormality is tracked and its deviation from normal rather than defective rate. So if you see this chart, say suppose 3 times the parameters on the above the average, that means there's a drift taking place to the right side. So you may need to just look at what you need to do to correct it. Second is also bring a lot of mistake-proofing devices, foolproof devices. Like for them, you put jigs to make sure that defect is quickly picked up. Okay, or you may put many of you may be knowing. So ultimately, customer complaints must be down to 0. So here I actually again a chart which I've taken from ITC, courtesy ITC. So a lot of charts, statistical data that needs to be looked at if you want to improve your operations to world-class standards. Okay, so there are trends that you may need to look. You may need to look at the capability of the process. Okay, how to improve the capability of the process, whether it can actually deliver what you're looking for, all that comes in. And of course, very important thing is eliminating waste. Okay, when we talk about waste, it's not only the products that you waste. So as you these charts show, there are 8 different waste, and we had discussed earlier when we were discussing the program, lean program. Okay, what it focuses on waste. Okay, it's talking about the same thing. So what he's saying here, the world-class benchmarks is the actual work ratio and the time that is spent in actually producing the product should be almost 85% plus. You won't be surprised today if you actually multiply all the processes. Many of the processes you'll find will not be more than 40 or 50%. Okay, so it's a major improvements that are required. And I'll go down to the last, and new processes are designed to maximize added value activity. Okay, so okay, some of the Japanese terms that they use I put down there because you'll find that many of them actually they look at very common sense issues and they picked it up and consistently worked on them to improve. Okay, next one is of course best operating practices must be culled out from the system, and through a process of continuous improvement you implement them. So what they're saying is that see today, if you have a typical factory, the management will be say 5 people. If you take an MSME, say 10 people, including the promoters. If you the workmen, there may be 100 of them. It would be a great thing if all the 100 people start bringing up 4 ideas every year. Every month. If you put it all together, there's so much of improvement ideas that come in. Okay, so that's what world-class manufacturing or even all the other programs we're talking about are trying. And the second thing is say that 85% of the employee ideas must be implemented. Okay, here I wanted to share some of my own personal experience. In fact, in one of the agreements, we actually brought this into the thing and brought in an incentive scheme for employees to reward employees for the ideas that they bring in. And then we set up a whole mechanism where HR would keep these forms available, get workmen to contribute their ideas, bring those ideas together, and somebody tracks them. And then if the idea is implemented at different levels, we had some sort of a merit system and a reward system. Okay, so basically, but here another thing that I wanted to mention, which should not be lost here. He says anytime when you observe in manufacturing system, you'll have say 5 employees. So in 5 employees, you'll find that one employee always gets it right. And there will always be one employee who always seems to be making goof ups. Okay, so sometimes when you see how they are actually doing the work, you may actually find that there is something different that the guy who's doing well is doing. So he says by observing that, you try and capture how the steps that he is doing, and then make that as a best, take that best operating practices, make it a part of your SOP. And then you start training the other 4 people to start adopting the same practice. So you'll find that automatically 5 different people now start improving their performance. So that's what is being said here. Of course, the next one is quality improvement model. It's an actually extension from the previous one. A lot of Western companies earlier, I don't think today, this is all gone all over. You know, we used to wait for a manager to come up with a brilliant solution, a new innovation. So the red chart. So you get one, after a long time, you get one innovation. Sorry, I'll just take some. Then that after that improvement is implemented, then slowly starts, the decay starts, the process of entropy. Entropy works everywhere, so things start dropping up. Then you wait for the next innovation for improvement. So rather than that, the Japanese say that you do that. Certainly innovation should be there. Don't put it aside. They also emphasize that. But they say have a Kaizen approach, or what we call a continuous improvement approach, where you make sure that every employee in the organization, everybody starts contributing some ideas. And each of those is like small steps of improvement that you do is a parallel process. So both should be encouraged. Okay, the chart it shows. And of course, as we discussed in the previous chart, the improvements that take place, all improvements tend to slip. We know in life. Okay, you make a new road, it starts slowly deteriorating. See, the maintenance is not done properly, then it deteriorates, and you again have to have a huge expense thing. So if you have a good maintenance system to support that, then you make sure that the improvements are all locked in. And like a ratchet wheel, you are continuously moving forward rather than slipping going 3 steps forward, then slipping 2 steps, and then going again 3 steps forward. And of course, team and teamwork, this will be expected everywhere. There's a feel that a lot of teams must be existing everywhere, and it must be a way of life in the organization. and team achievements are celebrated more than achievements of individuals. Okay, so that's what is expected. Of course, I just put down how whether a team is effective or not. That itself is another thing. How do you improve team performances? Another important thing is team empowerment and involvement. Okay, so you encourage individuals even at the worker level to set their own objectives and also get them to do some self appraisals of them, so that helps the process. And going down, if you see involving workmen even in terms of work equipment purchase, at least get their ideas. Okay, and going on to internal audits also. In fact, we had done this experiment. In fact, when we had to bring a lot of this new technology, we felt that many a time it used to be only the manager who would go off, see the technology and come back and try and implement it. So we actually took a radical approach and said, why don't we actually decide who the operators who are going to finally operate these machines, have some sort of a selection process on some quantitative criteria, then get these guys acclimatized, go through some training of what to do when they go there, and then actually send them there to look at the machine that is going to come. Okay, maybe visit one or two factories and see how they're operated there and bring it. And this was a great experience for us because it not only blunted off unions from restricting the induction of modern equipment, but also these guys had benchmark performances after that because they saw all that and then came and applied it here. So some of the benefits that you can expect from here. Rewards and recognition, I just taken an image. So performance and approvals must the important point is rewards and recognition must focus a lot on continuous improvement and continuous learning. Okay, not only on some result that they've given you one day. So, and of course, a lot of other things are drastically changed, like average pay should attract the best staff. Now the question is how an MSME is going to do this. They must look at it and work at it. And of course, lots and lots of communication is important. People tend to undervalue this. I have seen from my own experience, when you are wanting to have an all-round change and major changes in your organization, communication has to be, and communication should not be ad hoc. There should be a plan to the communication, and actually, as per the plan, you then do a variety of communications. And you also have a feedback system. You do a survey to see whether the communications are having the desired impact. So a lot of all these have to be commissioned if you are going to be a world-class factory. And the next one, of course, almost the end of my presentation, continuous learning. Okay, so a lot of skills have to be infused into various workmen, and we must track. What happens in any time we give the training, but we forget to track them. Okay, this experience again I had because we decided to create modules of training, give the modules a certain technical names, okay, and then get an HR or some other computer system to monitor what is the training input that we're giving to various employees, and look at the accumulation of all this over a period of time. And then we try to link up even promotions or increments to the amount of skills that people have taken on and displayed. So yes, I put down some of the world-class benchmarks in terms of what is expected. Nothing. So we are saying continuous skills training should take place all the way to continuous must become a way of life. Okay, so these are various steps that I have put down together, and it's not that I'm giving a theory. I've actually worked with these things, and I found that they actually work. Okay, at the same time, I must also give you some reality touch. When you try and implement this, sometimes you can get overwhelmed by the type of data that you have to handle. So that's where you need to have computer systems, and that's where the importance of an ERP system comes in, which we had discussed earlier. So ERP is not only in the context of operations management. ERP will also help you in an integrated, if you want to integrate all these things, to keep the data and track the data. Okay. Okay, so before I go, so I have now more or less covered everything. I don't know if I rushed a little bit. If anybody wants a clarification on any one point, I'm willing to give. I can just stop for 2 minutes and wait if there's any question from anybody.
Yeah. Sir,
sorry, I can't hear you. Or shall I finish and then take the question?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, you can take the question, sir. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just cover 2 more slides and then I'll
Yeah.
take the questions.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, now, from my own practical experience of going through these processes in the last 20 years, 20, 30 years, see, many a time what happens is, somebody comes very excited and says, look, there's a new thing that has come called lean, or something as some new BPR, business process re-engineering, something new is coming. And then a few guys then start off and try to implement it. It doesn't work that way. So what has to be done? An organization must systematically look at what is important for it and what is going to be effective. It's a very traditional model. So he's saying, and then you have to look at what tools you want to apply and why you want to apply it. And then once you take them on and when it becomes a plan, then you must be persistent with it. Okay. And chase it and make sure it happens. So here's a good slogan. It says, a tool is not a solution in search of a problem. Your tool that you select must be a solution to a problem. Okay, because many times we tend to get mixed up with this. So I wanted to mention this because as we have, though I've run through the presentation, there are lots and lots of it. Because if you go into the individual tools, which I've given you a summary, each of the tool itself can be discussed for the whole day. Implementation of a tool in actual reality may take you almost a few months to see it taking root and actually finally sticking on and actually becoming a part of your system. Okay, and then I just 3 thoughts I wanted to say. If you're going, as most of you would realize, any one of these things is basically change. Okay, and it's all a question of change management, because there are a lot of experts who will be there to help you, but you must be willing to take the change and make the change stick and make it work for you. Okay, second one is that another big mindset change that is important is that we must see problems as an opportunity and not problems as a pain that you need to avoid. Okay, that's what the Japanese finally did. They looked at all problems as treasures. So a problem is a change from a normal or expected situation that needs attention. If you see in Six Sigma, what are they saying? They're not saying that you avoid it. What they're saying is that when you see, if you look at it from a Six Sigma prism, you may find that the three sigma variation is not acceptable. So anything that is going beyond 3 sigma, you say that let me now analyze why the deviation is taking place beyond the 3 sigma. Okay, and what can I do? So that problem then is being analyzed through using that mechanism or that methodology to taking ideas of workmen, taking ideas of experts, and trying to see what needs to be implemented tomorrow so that my Six Sigma performance improves. Similarly, in lean, if you go to lean thing, you'll find that sometimes you find that a lot of zigzag movements are taking place. Suddenly, some typical case, you'll find one day that a workman is pushing a huge load across 3 buildings to some other thing. So then that is and then suddenly you find that something the guy spills off, and that becomes a problem. So one method again, that problem, can I just fire the guy for dropping the thing? Other thing is, the question is, why did he drop it? Why did he have to move the material all the way from 3 buildings? So can I look at improving the flow line and make it more leaner so that that problem can be avoided? So when you implement that point, you'll find suddenly that it's not only one small problem that you have solved 8 other problems. Okay, you have reduced waste in some way, you improved safety in some other way. Okay, you have reduced the need for material handling equipment. Some equipments can be shed. So that's it. And of course, third is success, which I started right in the beginning. If you want to have success in these things, okay, you must remember the success is a transitory goal. Okay, what is success today is tomorrow, not success tomorrow. So it's a moving target. So you must, important point that you must instill passion and a need for system throughout your thing. It's not enough if the top management talks about passion and system. Okay, it's not going to work. You got to make sure that the passion and systems is translated right down throughout the organization to all the employees, all the managers. That passion must be there on average. Now, you may say in the real life, it's not possible that everybody is enthusiastic every day. Okay, you will not have problems of labor tomorrow. You will not have problems of a manager wanting to quit and go. But what we are saying in an average, try and improve the whole system so that passion and systems become a way of life in the whole organization. And always remember that competitiveness is not a sprint. Okay, it's not a 100-meter sprint. You quickly finish it Okay, you've done one Six Sigma program for 3 years. Now you say, okay, we have arrived and things are finished. You cannot rest on your oars. Okay, you have to see it as a marathon. You got to see it continuously, something that is, you have to be at it uh, on time. So those are my concluding remarks. So with that, this is my brief introduction. Okay, I've just left on chart of abbreviations if I have been loosely using them around. So if you need them, any clarifications, you can use the abbreviation. So with that, I'll stop. I'll exit the presentation. Can I exit the presentation?
Yeah, fine, sir. Fine. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it at this in case you want me to go back to anything. But I'd welcome any questions, or if anything that I moved very fast and it requires a little more elaboration, I would be willing to.
No, not possible, because the subject is such a big, huge subject. I think you covered it in the time, sir. That's indeed a great presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sir, we have some small questions. I think I'll take the questions from the audience later, but I have some few questions which I'd like to address to you, sir. Like, what is the cost of an ERP package? How long does it take to implement it? How many people have to be committed for this? Like, and if you give an example in the point of MSME.
Okay, it's a very big question.
Yeah.
Okay, let me answer. Now, the thing is that normally if you go to a ERP consultant, he will want to know first what is the size of the organization. Okay, he will want to know how many customers you have, how many vendors you have. Okay, how many processes you have in the organization before he gives you a quote. I know that the figures vary. Okay, but I think okay, I don't want to quickly say, but to my knowledge, in my setup, which had say about some 300, 400 employees, we had almost some 3 to 4 crores on those days. But what I would suggest in today's days, of course, with a lot of these industry 4.0 technologies coming in, some of these costs can be brought down. Second is you can always shift the cost between upfront cost and variable cost. Okay, that means if suppose you go for a cloud solution, then you don't pay too much upfront, but then you pay licensing fee or over years of use, which may then depend on how many people are logging in. So that's one part of it. Second part of an implementation, say if you're at least see a 3 to 4 man team may be necessary, because you need to have at least in the beginning, you need a good strong finance guy from the beginning. You should never let a finance guy off the hook, because it's better to always use him right from the beginning, so that later on he does not come back and say, look, it's not fitting in. Okay, I'm not getting the information that I need. So it's always good to have a finance guy, a materials guy, and an operations guy to work together, and also bring in a marketing guy later if necessary. But it's always better to have all the four involved right from the beginning. But in my own experience, sometimes what happens is you don't need to have 100%. I think the person may be doing part of his other job and then come in whenever he is required. Okay, so that's the second part. Time period, of course, varies from at what stage you are starting. In my own experience, because I did 2 implementation, one was from scratch. That took almost 3 to 4 years because we had also some industrial strife in between, because it did affect made fundamental changes in the setup, which were being resisted initially, but later on it got adopted. But if you do a migration, it should be about 2 to 3 years, is what my feeling is. Of course, that is for getting to a certain level, say 70% maturity levels. But thereafter, you have to work hard to make it more and more better in terms of maturity and in terms of conformance if you want final results. It's an asymptotic curve which has to be.
So you mean to say, sir, this ISO certification and Six Sigma and Lean, you recommend for all the medium and small scale industries in the initial stage itself?
Yeah, my recommendation for MSMEs is start with ISO 9000, because anyway, what will happen is when you do ISO 9000, a lot of things are included. A lot of the good principles that you have in TQM, Lean, or are to some extent being brought into ISO 9000. So when you are implementing ISO 9000, in trying to respond to the requirements, you can bring some good concepts from TQM, say like from employee involvement, how much you want to do, how you want to do, because that if you are looking at say process variability, you can look at some of the Six Sigma principles and bring them in. Okay, if you are looking at flow lines, whether your flow lines are good or not, when you are doing ISO implementation, you can bring some principles from Lean and try and bring them in.
Either what you rightly said is that the top management commitment should be there. That means in this case, the owner or partner, the top
So
MD
he must,
company, he
see,
should
either
have the clarity.
the drive will come either from the owner or it may come from a supply chain partner, because if you're upstream in the supply chain, see, they will insist. But it's always better for the promoter to start up all these things long before, because so that by the time the opportunity comes of a supply chain linkage, you're already ready and you just need a few months to gear up.
I think we can integrate now, sir. This HR manual of organization manual is there now. What is the master, what job he has to do, what is the goal of company, everything will be defined in the organization manual of HR designed by it. So that and ISO certification and ERP package can be integrated so that in a small level, they get a total picture of unit as such, what each one has to do, how he has to improve, what exactly a company vision and other things.
See, HR practice, see, because what happens is every organization has certain things already there. See, because everybody is trying to improve something or the other because of various reasons. So whenever you do an ISO 9000, first it's better to take a stock taking and then see where are the other areas of gap that you have and start filling them. Okay, then you get into an ISO certification. Once you get an ISO certification, then you look at how do you improve your ISO conformance every year. Okay, and then at some point you may do best practices. So say if you're in a pharma industry, you take a best practice of pharma industry and implement it. So that becomes a building block on your ISO 9000 certification. Okay, so that you build up layers of improvement.
Yeah, but sir, one more point. This compared to the cost, like waste management you explained. In this one, for cutting down the cost, somewhere you got to change your equipment even. You have to go for high-end equipment compared to competitors and all. Then they got to invest more on the capex to change the whole system of it. You got to take a decision to improve that particular quality. For example, conversion versus CNC. For example, a person used to do conventional, instead of conventional, if you go for CNC, the repeatability part of it, everything will be assured and a good quality will come. But they have got to invest in the capex point. These decisions we've got to take by top management if at all they want to go for some better quality as per the customer requirement.
Yeah, actually, if you see, that's why I after a lot of thought, I built that chart on evolution of quality systems. So my own experience is that you need to see there are at the 3 levels in every organization. Right at the top, there are business processes. See, business processes also must keep improving. Then in middle rung, you have all the shop floor practices. Then what we talked about quality, I think. Then the other one is the technology dimension that is taking Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0. See, all these developments, when Industry 4.0 is taking place, a lot of the technologies that are there are being actually integrated into machines today. Now, so you may decide 2 things. Either you, if it's possible, you integrate those technologies into your existing machines and see how you can improve them. So, and improve them and to deliver the customer satisfaction requirements. Okay, but parallelly, technology and machines are also improving, because machine manufacturers are also themselves trying to integrate quality systems, operation systems, technology developments that are taking place into their machines. So this then becomes an issue and a decision that the top management of the MSME has to take. To what extent will I keep improving my existing quality and equipments, and, improving best practices or bringing other improvements and meeting their customer requirement. But at some point, he may find that it's not possible to do that. So at that time, he may have to take a decision to bring in a new technology. But just bringing new technology, if your systems are not good, if your quality systems are not good, if the employee systems are not good, even if you bring a top-notch good equipment and put it, you'll find that within a few years, if not months, the machine quality will deteriorate. Okay, the maintenance is not done properly, not world-class maintenance is not done. Then you'll find that the machine is supposed to deliver one type of quality starts drifting downwards. So it all has to be looked at in a systematic fashion, and this is where the promoter or the management of MSC has a very important role to play.
I think I request you, for any members, they can raise a question, they can introduce yourself. TM Venkateshan Garu, can you ask any question, sir?
Sir, good evening, sir. Can I ask the questions?
Yeah, please.
Please. My pleasure.
Sir, yeah, I am Rishi, sir. I am in teaching. I teach for BBA students. Sir, I have small fundamental questions, sir. Sir, could you please explain me what is process life cycle? Point one. Second one is purchasing and procurement difference. And third one is, if any organization practicing TQM or Six Sigma, in that case, are there any authorized bodies to authorize that company is practicing Six Sigma and TQM?
Okay, let me try and answer them one by one. See, process time. Okay, process time, cycle time.
No, process life cycle. Process life cycle.
Process life cycle. Actually, what happens is, okay, let me just. I didn't want to touch that because it take us into a tangent. Because what happens is, let's take an example. Let's take a motor car. Okay,
yes, sir.
You have one model of a vehicle that a car company, say Hyundai, comes up with one model of car. Okay, so they want to introduce it to the market.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so product life cycle in the initial stage starts with say all the design work and everything. Okay, but at that time there is a lot of uncertainty on whether the product will be accepted in the market.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so initially your volume will be low.
Yes, sir.
Right. Then suppose once it gets into the market, you may suddenly find that it takes off in the market. Okay,
yes,
so then the volume of sales starts growing up.
Yes, sir.
And then at some stage it plateaus off because people then have more offerings, so then they start. And then at some stage you find that the sales start dipping.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now the company decides that they must come up with a new model of a car.
Yes,
and then they have plans to withdraw this car.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's because that product life cycle management has to be factored into the demand, because if the demand is in the initial stage of product life cycle, you have to be very cautious in how many parts you produce or how many cars you produce, because you don't want to land up with unsold cars. Okay,
yes.
And second is at the other end, if you when the product is waning off, the demand is waning off, you again have to start tapering down the number of cars that you make, because you purposely want to kill that model, so that the new model that you have come up with should start taking off. Okay, so to that extent, you will make sure that the availability of that receding model, availability in the market, is reduced.
Yes.
So that's PLM.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the second question, if you man, in explaining this, I forgot the questions. If you,
purchasing and procurement, sir.
Okay, they're all synonymous words.
Yeah. Okay.
My personal feeling is procurement is a slightly word of wider meaning than purchasing. The procurement normally could even mean capital procurement, capital equipment procurement, whereas purchasing normally is used a little more narrow. But that is all semantics. I don't think we should get stuck with the words.
My last question is already asked, sir. If any organization practicing Six Sigma or TQM, in that case, are there any authorized bodies to authorize that this company is practicing Six Sigma or TQM like that?
TQM, I'm not sure, because not so much. But Six Sigma, certainly you have to be certified. There are auditors. In fact, even for practicing Six Sigma in an organization, you have to have trained Six Sigma practitioner who they have this black belt, different belt.
My question is, sir, suppose X company is practicing Six Sigma.
Yeah.
As a customer, how do I know that a company is practicing Six Sigma? If suppose ISO is there, like that, any organization is there to certify that this company is practicing Six Sigma?
Then you can get Six Sigma certifications. There are the same body that will give you ISO 9000 certification will also give you Six Sigma certification if you want.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
I think any further questions, sir?
I am Dr. T.M. Venkatesan.
Yeah.
To the gentleman who was sharing this about how do you know whether I am practicing Six Sigma? The ppm parts per million defects will they indicate whether you are a Six Sigma company or not. You don't need any certification from outside. You can prove that if you are making parts per million 3.4, that means you are already a Six Sigma company. But let me tell you, I have been in the training for the last 16 years. Six Sigma is a concept still not yet able to get penetration, especially in the SME. But 5S, as you have explained, is itself is a non-starter. I've been going through many companies myself, especially in SME, because I myself have been from an SME. Very lot of reluctance to take up 5 years culture, because the entrepreneur has been fighting every day, firefighting every day, and it's difficult to put his efforts in the culture change of bringing fires. But to the audience, I would like to share only one thing, a very interesting experience. There was a company manufacturing parts on a world-class level, and the buyer was from Mitsubishi. He found some defects in the order, and they come to the company to cancel the order. But when they came to cancel the order, the management was telling the Mitsubishi that we have started practicing 5S, and they have shown some presentation what they have done in the last 1 year. But after seeing the slides and 5S and all, they said, okay, now you are taken up 5S. That means there is a scope for you to improve, and we'll give you opportunity. Not cancel the order, will continue, will come after 1 year. That is what the benefit that company got it. This is what I want to share with you. And this is only to inspire the people to take up 5S, and the foundation for all process improvement in my humble experience. I've been in the industry.
Thank you, sir.
I've been in the industry for the last 56 years. I started at the age of 18 in TVS as a technical assistant. I've been with the humble background. I just want to share with you, if company can practice 5S, there can be a drastic changes. All
Hey, you're right, sir. You're right. Absolutely. I think it's beneficial for the entrepreneur itself.
Yes.
Like, if he implements all these Japanese principles in his own production system, definitely he'll be knowing what product and where is the wastage is happening. That's where he control it. And, it's always beneficial for him. And that's what he's saying, middle management always do Kaizen, that is continuous improvement in their process. And 5 is rightly sort out, systemize, standardize. And the waste management principles, if anyone follows it, it's definitely good for the company. And that's where top management take initiative and implement all these Japanese principles in a smaller way, in a small unit or big unit or a bigger unit. Like, they should know where the tolerances of the component, how they're producing it, how to improvise the mission, how to maintain the equipment, and how to maintain the quality. And it is to be, what our speaker rightly said, is that it's not only the top management level, it should root it to the ground level, at the bottom level of the lost employee. Like, a sweeper should also know how he has to, then only the 5 years can be applicable. Like, he has to keep everything neatly and organize whatever the marking they did it. So this is a overall culture they got to implement, that we call it the Japanese quality control system, government management system, and this should be implemented totally. That's why we call it the QM. I think indeed, sir, is a great presentation. I take.
I just want to add, Mr. Prasad, one point.
Yes, sir.
This has been in my experience, and I think gentleman just before Mr. Venkatesh, I just mentioned. See, I found this. See, many a time you don't need to arrive and have everything in your system, but the very when a customer comes and he sees that you are making some efforts, okay, some of these concepts are being applied, then they feel that the right ingredients for change is there. So they themselves may work with you to improve your systems and also give you the business.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everybody who's coming here is looking for someone to partner with. Okay, so a partner with the right attitude. So if the right attitude, because when they see that some of these things are being implemented, they know that the right attitude is there, right from the promoter down. So they may be very willing to actually invest in the time and actually work together.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. That's what Venkatesh was saying, like 5 years is implemented and appreciated them. Sir, I think I take closing remarks of the presentation of today, sir. Like, what you rightly mentioned is, total employee participation should be there, and a good teamwork got to be there, and they got to motivated, like whatever they do, little contribution, and that to be rewarded. So that should be the real culture of the top management. Got to see this. And one more point, rightly said, is that one employee is doing the best job, and the same scenario another employee is not able to do in that efficiently. Then it's definitely got to give some sort of a in-house training or technical inputs or some sort of counseling, so that that morale of this other person will also increase. Overall, you got to build up a good team of the organization. That is strength of any setup, where the operational management and quality management techniques are really going to implement and raise the company's image in a global level. Rightly well said, sir. I think we are very thankful to you once again. On behalf of HMA, I take opportunity in saying vote of thanks, because our Secretary Garu is said that he is some busy work, is unable to join. Sorry for that, but I take the on behalf of our Secretary Garu, I am conveying again, you have taken your valuable time and a very tough subject, given in a very brief way, and we'll be interacting with you in future again and again, sir. And we want your wisdom to share to our members. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Karthik?
Sir.
Yeah, I think that you can say it. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Closing the meeting.